All right. All right. Good to see everybody. Thank you for being here. Open your Bibles this morning to Mark chapter 5. Mark chapter 5. You ever look around at the people that you know and even the people that you don't know? I see people in the grocery store and I see them at the dollar store and stuff, and I look at them sometimes and I wonder what their life is like. Some people hide it well. They got a rough life, rough way to live. Some people don't. Some people wear it right on their sleeve and you can see it. It's really sad. I remember being a kid and we traveled a lot back in them days when I was young, and I remember, because I'd never been anywhere ever, hardly at all, so we'd drive down hundreds and hundreds of miles of interstate, and every exit, I remember being a little kid and thinking, I wonder who all lives on that exit. I wonder what their stories are. I wonder, who's at their grandma and grandpa's right now, and who's getting ready to go camping, and who's fixing to go to summer camp. And I had 1,000 imaginations of what everybody's lives were like as a child, and it made me a little sad that I would never know any of those people. I remember thinking that. But I look at people a lot of times, and it breaks my heart because people spend their whole life in search of peace. They spend their whole life in search of peace of mind, and they're searching for rest for their soul. I mean, can't you look on people's faces and see the turmoil that they're living in? Some people, I know them. I know what they're going through. I know what's going on in their life. When our girls got old enough, and they got them a little job up there at the ice cream shop in Piedmont. So they was working with some other girls and stuff there. And I remember them coming home and telling me, and I knew these little girls that worked in there. I'd seen them around town. They worked at the grocery store too and stuff like that. And they'd come home and tell me their story about what they're going through in their life at that moment. And it would sometimes it really shock me. And that's everybody, I mean, anymore, used to, you'd look out there and you'd see teenagers and, kids and stuff, and it was the exception to the rule when you seen some kid that was going through hard home life or something like that. Now it's not. Now it's all of them, basically. Got a rough way to go. We don't even have a clue of what they go through. They don't have a home. Their homes are a mess, if they even got one. They're literally hungry, abused, and nobody even has a clue that it's going on. Nobody even really cares, to be honest with you. Because if you don't know, you don't care. Isn't that awful? And then these little kids, they grow up and turn into adults that you go to work with, and you shop with, and you drive past them on the road, and they're all looking for answers. You say, well, how do you figure? I've tried to witness to people before, and they don't want to hear anything I have to say. Oh, don't believe that. Even the people who resist it are looking for some answers. They're looking for some peace. And they are looking for some hope. They live in a hopeless world, in a hopeless life, with no hope for anything in the future. That's why suicide rates are what they are. It's why divorce rates are what they are. There's no hope. They don't start out with any hope. Hope is a wish that has action to it. And most people just build their life on imagination and wishes. There's no hope. There's nothing to build their hope on. They don't know the Lord. They ain't got any kind of hope for eternity. And their life is just built on imaginations and wishes and, country songs and one-liners out of romance movies and stuff. I'm serious. Talk to people. You ought to talk to people. And not just, hey, how you doing? Thanks for checking me out. Bye. No, you ought to talk to people. It's amazing. I've said this before, how me and her will stand in the grocery line, and you just talk to the cashier, some little girl or some young man. And you just talk to them for a second, and they will open up to you and tell you all kinds of things in 3 minutes while they're checking you out that you had no... Why are they dumping all this to me? Because you talk to them. We live in a world of these. This is how people talk to each other. And it's almost strange when somebody looks at somebody and says, hey, how are you doing? Are you having a good day? Try it. It'll blow your mind. People need the Lord. People are searching for something. They don't even know what they're looking for. But they know that what they got ain't going to work because it hasn't been working. You know, they exhaust every resource that they have, every way that they can think of, every way anyone else can think of too. I mean, it's amazing to me how, we have this idea that nobody wants to hear anything you have to say. And I've literally had young people that say, what should I do? You got any advice for me? I ain't got the foggiest clue of what I need to do. What would you do? And then they'll do it. They'll try it. Because they don't know what else to do. You have a lot more influence. We have a lot more influence than what you think that we do. And I'm not talking from a platform of like the religious platform. I'm talking about on a personal level. All you got to do is show just the glimmer of kindness to just about anyone, and they will lean into it because it's really dark out there. There's a lot of hopelessness out there. They'll waste their resources, their health, and their sanity, and their youth, and their time, and their life in pursuit of something, some kind of hope, some kind of answer. Anything. Trying to do just like what this woman we're going to read about here in Mark chapter 5. What she was trying to do to cure herself. There was only one person. There was only one way that she was ever going to be delivered from her situation. And that was him. That was Jesus. Same as it is for you and me. Same as it is for all these people I'm talking about this morning. There was a song when I was a kid that got sang a lot in churches, and it was this. It was called People Need the Lord. I remember every word to that song. And it's true. He was going to be her only hope, and it's the same for us too. Try any other thing, all you want. You're just not going to make it without him. And that's it. You're just not going to make it without him. You can try anything else that you want, and you can do good for a little while. It might help you for a little while. It might help you feel better for a little while. It might give you some glimmer of hope for a little while. But I'm telling you, all of the self-help that you can muster, all of the counseling that you can get from good people, all of the moral and financial support that you can get from other people in this world, it'll help you, but it's not going to take care of the problem. It's not going to sustain you, and it's not going to fix this problem of hopelessness. It's not going to do it. He's the only way. You're not going to make it through this life without him. You can't. It's impossible. And I think that ought to be, honestly, what projects out of us to others. We can talk to them. We can give them advice. We can give them counsel. We can witness to them. We can read them scripture. But our life ought to say, like a big billboard, you're not going to make it without him. I can't make it without him. Neither can you. Let's read this scripture here. We're going to start in Mark chapter 5, verse 25. Very familiar story. It says, and a certain woman which had an issue of blood 12 years. Now, I remember reading this as a kid, totally not understanding this at all. But you get older and you start reading the Bible. Read back in Leviticus. It refers to this in the Levitical law. It's really sad to me that there's still people, lots of people in our world, in our Baptist world, that live under the law. And when I say that, I don't mean necessarily metaphorically. The letter of the law is their law. It's what they put their faith in. Well, this particular reference to the law concerning this issue of blood, this woman, and I mean, this is the adult Sunday school class, and that's why I'm going to say it this way, tactfully, but she had female problems. Now, if you read the Levitical law, there was very stringent laws concerning that period of time every month. And she was put away. She was put away. Separated from her family, from the house, from eating with them, from the furniture, deemed as unclean. That's what the law said. And you got to remember the day that this woman lived in, that was what everyone lived by. Jesus was there, but the crucifixion still hadn't even happened yet. He was preaching, going around, and that was what he was up against, was the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the law that they put on men. And this woman had been dealing with this for 12 years. In the Bible, back in Leviticus, where it talks about that, I think it wasn't it 10 days or 2 weeks of the separation? There was a week and a week. And then she could rejoin. You say, oh my goodness, yeah, it's tough. It's hard for us to wrap our head around that. This woman had been there for 12 years. Her family put her out. Everybody she loved, everybody that she leaned on, everybody that she trusted, they either had to break the law or follow the law and get rid of her. There was no mercy. There was no grace. There was no other answer except you're out. No hope. Do you see what I'm saying? There's no hope. 12 years. It says this, certain woman had an issue of blood 12 years and had suffered many things of many physicians, and had spent all that she had, and was nothing bettered, but rather grew worse. When she had heard of Jesus, came in the press behind and touched his garment, for she said, if I may touch but his clothes, I shall be whole. This woman had been sick for a long time. Long time. I mean, imagine if you were chronically ill for 12 years. You just hurt for 12 years. And add on that everybody you loved and everybody that you knew and everybody you grew up with and everything, your identity. That's your identity. And they had stripped you of that and thrown you out. And you were sick. I mean, somebody like this was as unclean to them in the eyes of the law as a leper. What could she do for work? How did she eat? How did she live? Where did she live? Outcast. No hope. 12 years. You reckon you'd give up after 12 years? You reckon you would lose hope after 12 years? Think of the people that you talk to every day, the people you see every day, just like what I said at the beginning. They've lived their whole life this way. Do you remember what it feels like to not have any hope? To not have any promise of something better? To not have any peace in your soul? To be rejected? That's what this woman felt. And here's the thing. Let's look at a few things about this. Her journey to healing. She wasn't denying that she had a problem. She wasn't denying that she was sick. She wasn't denying that she needed help. 12 years of this kind of crushing blow, and there's no dignity left. There's no pride left. There's no reserve left. You'll take the charity. Well, I didn't ask nobody to help me. She asked anybody, will you help me? Nobody would help her. She wasn't denying that she couldn't. She couldn't. It had taken over her life. Every part of her life, it owned her. It had become her identity. Do you realize that? Her hopelessness had become her identity. What a place of despair to be in. Can you imagine? She couldn't escape it. Others knew about it. Everybody knew. Even if others didn't know, she couldn't escape the shame and the humiliation of what she had going on. At the end of the day, even if she was in a crowd of people that did not know her, she knew. And she knew that it was only a matter of time before her reputation would follow her and everybody would know, and they'd throw her out too. She'd been sick a long time, and the longer that she went, the more she suffered in every way. It says there that she had suffered many things. It didn't just say that she suffered. It said she suffered many things from many physicians. Well, wait a minute. A physician is supposed to be able to fix the problem, right? Not these guys. Not these physicians. These physicians, all they did is they just took everything she had. They made her suffer. They didn't fix anything. Matter of fact, it says they didn't make it better. They made it worse. They made it worse. All of the ways that she could come up with to try to get some help and to get some kind of answers and to get some kind of relief and some kind of hope only made it worse. Can you imagine how hard it was for her to save up a little bit of money to give to some physician and then just to have it only get worse? And it took everything she had. He didn't say, it's going to cost this much. He said, how much do you have? And she said, I have only this much. And he said, that's what it's going to cost. And then, what little trust she had to give and put in him turned out to only make things worse. Doesn't that sound awful familiar to the day we live in, and what all the answers that people are seeking for answers to their problems, and some glimmer of hope and some glimmer of silver lining behind the storm clouds, and their best efforts only make things worse. And the people that are all out there saying, hey, I'll help you. $250 an hour, I'll listen to your problems and I'll give you some advice. And look, nothing for nothing. I don't think I've ever met a single person that told me, yeah, we went to marriage counseling and it fixed our problems and it solved our problems. I've never heard that, not one single time. Never heard it. You know what I've heard 1,000 times? It was a waste of money. It was a waste of money. It just added a third party to the fight. And I had to pay them. Yeah. Made it worse. Your best efforts make it worse. You say, I'm sick of these drugs. I can't live like this no more. I'm going to rehab. And they go and they dry out. Or they get put in jail for something and they have to dry out. You know, we've worked a lot with a lot of, in the construction world, we've worked a lot with a lot of ministries down there in the Boot Hill that try to help these guys get clean. And the biggest challenge that they face is the relapse, of course. Get them back on the straight and narrow and get them cleaned up and try to get their minds focused on the goal and hope. And I had a lady that I did some work for in one of those things, and that's what she told me. She said the biggest challenge to overcome is hopelessness, because the mess that they show up here with is not their addiction. It's the wreck behind them that their addiction has caused. Their families that don't want nothing to do with them. Their children that have been taken away from them. Their husband that has kicked them out and don't want them back. And nobody trusts them anymore. And that feeling of hopelessness that says, look, I've been clean for 3 years. Can't you trust me? No. Because their best efforts over and over and over again have only ended in just going right back to where they started. Betraying the people that trust them. These physicians, they're the ones that supposedly had all the answers. How? Well, they had lots of ideas for her to try. A lot of things that she could try. And she spent all she had. They just robbed her blind. They robbed her of her money and her dignity and her sanity and her hope. And it didn't help at all. Everything that she could come up with made sense to her, that she could give. It only made it worse. So she came to the point where she had to acknowledge that he was her only hope. And that's the message we got to give too. Look, I am nobody, and I am not very smart. And I have my own struggles in life and my own challenges that I have to discipline myself and stay after myself. How am I going to fix you when I can barely keep myself in line? The Lord stays on me all the time. Daily. And so how presumptuous of me to say, come here, I'm going to help you. I'm going to fix you. No. I only have one thing that I can give them, and that's hope through Christ. The only thing that ever gave me any hope was Him. And the only thing that you can give anybody else hope through is Him also. That's it. You can do good and you can help them, and people have needs that you can meet. That goes without saying. Jesus fed the multitudes and they all walked away. But He still fed them anyway. Why? Because they was hungry. He said, I'm not sending them away from here hungry. I'm not doing that. So He took care of it. And we can do that too. But at the end of the day, a McDonald's card is not going to give somebody hope for eternity, man. Does that mean we should just only focus on one? No. It's a package deal. But the hope that they need doesn't come from monetary sustenance. It just doesn't. And that can't be enough from us. That can't be enough in our minds that that's all we've done and we've done enough. She came to a point where she acknowledged that He was her only hope. And when verse 27, when she had heard of Jesus, came in the press behind Him and touched His garment. Why? Because she said, if I may but touch His clothes, I shall be whole. She stopped looking for help anywhere else. She had come to an end of her resources, of her sanity, of her ability, of her strength. She said, if I can just touch Him, if I can just touch His clothes, if I can just get close enough to Him, I'll get some help. And I'm not trying to find help anywhere else. I'm done. I have nothing left to give. She put all her hope and trust in that He could cure her. She didn't demand some great, grandiose miracle. She just said, if I can just touch His clothes. Do you see where she was at? Just down at the bottom. That was the last little bit of hope that she had. That's the last drop. She said, if I can just get close enough to Him to touch His clothes, I'll be made whole. She didn't need to make a big spectacle. She didn't need some big big movement in her life and a bunch of people involved. It was just her and him. And you need to understand that that is what the lost need to know from us. At the end of the day, it's you and him. You're going to get help from him. You're going to get whole from him. It's not me and Jesus are going to make you better. No. You can only do so much. I can only do so much. Have you ever tried to help people that need help in the worst kind of way? You ever tried? You ever reached that moment where you knew, okay, that's all I can do? I have. With the full intention that I could help them. And I got reminded at a certain point that there was nothing else I could do. They were going to have to reach out and touch him somehow, or else they weren't going to get no help. And that's where we've got to get them to. And here's what you need to know. Verse number 29, it says this, "And straightway the fountain of her blood was dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of that plague." Healed. She felt it. Straight away. It didn't take 5 years for the recovery. Straight away. When she finally touched him, that's when it happened. Immediately. It happened immediately. You know, look through all the other miracles that Jesus did. He never met somebody that needed his help and walked away from them, and days later it come to fruition and they were healed. No. He never met a devil-possessed person that didn't leave him not possessed by the devil. Get out of him, and immediately the devil left him. Immediately. Sometimes they fought hard, but it didn't end. It ended quickly, and they were gone. And that's how it will be for you. If you don't have any hope, if you are hopeless and you've tried everything, when you finally do touch him, he will heal you. He'll heal you. The fountain that your problem, it'll be dried up. And Jesus, immediately knowing in himself that virtue had gone out of him, turned him about in the press and said, "Who touched my clothes?" Oh, how many times have you heard this story? I mean, you know the context. There was a multitude pressing on him and the disciples. Things were starting to get pretty dicey in the ministry there because they were hunting him by now. There was people that had it out for him. And so they were all scared. They were all on edge. And here's this multitude of people crowding around him. And here's the thing, you know, Jesus immediately responded to her effort. And he will yours too. Yeah. I'm telling you. If you call upon me, and I will answer thee, and show thee great and mighty things which thou knowest not. That's what he said he would do. Call unto me. Reach out there for him. I seen a thing the other day, and it was a guy giving his testimony. He said, "I was as lost as I possibly could be. I had no hope." And he said, "I was looking for Jesus. And I remember praying one night. I prayed and said, Jesus, I don't know if you can even hear me, but I'm going to find you. I'm going to find you." And he said, it wasn't no time at all. And you want to know what? He said, I didn't have to look for him. He come and found me. He come and found me. Do you think that Jesus knew that woman was coming? Yes. Same way he knew that Samaritan woman was going to be at the well. He said, I must needs go. I have to go through Samaria. Why? Everybody hates us down there. And you know what, Jesus? We kind of hate all of them too. He said, but I must needs go. Why? Because there's this girl that's going to be there to get some water. And she needs the water of life. He immediately responded to her situation when she reached out to him. When she finally got hold of him in the slightest bit. He immediately responded. She was healed immediately. Here's something else that you need to understand. Don't expect most people that should understand that to understand that. You're going to get resistance from the people that you didn't think you would, really. Just know this. They've never really touched Jesus either. Because it's kind of like forgiveness. If you've ever been forgiven, truly got a hold of what God's forgiveness is for you, you can forgive people for horrible things that they do to you. Truly forgive. How? Because you've been forgiven. And it's the same way here. How can you have hope for anyone else unless you've found hope yourself? These people didn't want her around no more than they wanted that blind man that cried out and said, Jesus, thou son of David, have mercy on me. And they said, hey, be quiet. And he cried all the more loud and said, you help me. Jesus stopped the whole thing for that man. Everybody there that was supposed to be part of the production was like, shh, he ain't got time for you. You know, there is more important fish to fry right now than you, sir. That wasn't the way Jesus felt about it. Not at all. And he still don't feel that way about it. The lowest of the low. There's still hope for them. There's still hope. They don't feel like there's any hope, but he has hope for them because all they got to do is just say, help me. And he's there. And he will help them. And he'll give them more than hope. He'll heal their plague. Take it away. Do we really believe that? Do we live like we believe that? No, we really kind of don't. I feel so bad about that. Because I look at people sometimes and then I'll think about it later and think, I wonder who has any hope for that person at all. Does anybody care for that person? You know, you've heard me say it before, down there in the bluff even. You go to the bluff and there's just crazy people sitting at the stoplights and in the parking lots and walking up down the streets and just completely gone. And they could die and no one in the whole town would care one whit. Don't care. Nobody. You know who does? God does. He died for them as much as he died for you. A lot of healing is specifically between you and him. Don't expect everybody to understand everything about it for you. I mean, look, the Lord has done stuff for me that I probably won't never tell nobody. Because he did it for me. He healed my plague. The thing that was plaguing me, he fixed it. I can't explain it. I can't describe to you how it was and then how it is now, other than like the blind man that said to the Pharisees, they said, tell us who did this. He said, I don't even know what his name is. All I know is this. I was blind, but now I can see. It's just that simple. I can't describe, I can't explain to you how it happened. All I know is that this man come along and asked me if I wanted to see, and I said yes, and he said, okay, you can see. And I can see now. Did them Pharisees understand that? Not at all. Not at all. They rejected it, matter of fact. They refused to try to understand it. And that poor man just said, I don't know how to I can't explain it to you. What did they do to him? They choked him out of the temple. Why? Well, they weren't going to sit around and listen to this man talk about stuff they couldn't understand. They were the leaders, after all. The Lord will do things for you that's for you. They're precious. They're special. You know, don't be discouraged if people don't understand all that. But know this, his deliverance will show up immediately, and his deliverance will show up outwardly. It does. He doesn't deliver you from your plague and then you still walk around sick. It's not that way no more. You're different. Consider this. Healing demands honesty. Jesus, immediately knowing in himself that virtue had gone out of him, turned him about in the press and said, Who touched my clothes? And his disciples said unto him, Thou seest the multitude thronging thee, and sayest thou, Who touched me? Can you imagine being sarcastic to the Son of God? Man, that's what they were. That's what they did. And he looked around about to see her that had done this thing. But the woman, fearing and trembling, knowing what was done in her, she already knew. Why was she feared and trembled? Why was she afraid and why was she trembling? Well, I told you it was her last drop of hope. And then it happened. And then she seen everyone's reaction. And her fear was that it was going to be taken from her somehow. Possibly. She didn't deserve it. She knew she didn't deserve it. She almost felt like she had stole it somehow. The woman, fearing and trembling, knowing what was done in her, came and fell down before him and told him all the truth. This is key right here. You got to be honest with him. And you got to be honest with everybody. You can't expect people to understand your plague if you won't be honest with anybody. She didn't whisper it in his ear. She fell down. The whole procession stopped. And he said, Who did this? And she fell down at his feet and told him all the truth out loud so that everybody could hear it. Healing is going to demand your honesty. You are never going to have any kind of healing of your plague or any kind of hope for your future or your life or eternity or any hope of recovery or restoration or anything until you are willing to humble yourself. It's hard to be honest. It's hard to be honest when you've not been a good person. Honest and transparent. Humble and honest. And that's what she did. Fell down at his feet and told him all the truth. And this is where the miracle happens. Really. Now, it said that she felt that her problem had been healed. She felt it in her own body. So she knew. She knew. He'd already done a work in her. But that was inward. The work of God that he does in a life is both inward and outward. It's never just one or the other. If you see that, then it's not complete and it's not of God. Because people can claim to have an inward working of God in their life and not show any signs of it outwardly. Or they can have all the outward signs of God working in their life, but it's evident that there's no inward working. There's been no healing. The issue of blood is still there. He did the inward secret healing for her. He did that. Unbeknownst to everyone around them except for him. But then, humility and honesty and transparency. And she just laid it all out there for everybody to hear. And so he did a miracle for her outwardly. In front of the multitudes that had rejected her. For 12 years, this woman had been ostracized by society. They had stripped away her identity, her family. Everyone had abandoned her and left her in this state of hopelessness. And Jesus looked at her and said unto her, Daughter. Man, he gave her back an identity. He gave her a new identity. And it wasn't just some random beggar that he just helped out. No, he said, You're my family now. You are my daughter. Well, I'm just a man. And I have some daughters, and I know what I would do for my daughters. I would do anything. I would die. I'd give everything I ever had if it gave them an ounce of hope. And he healed her plague. And then he publicly gave her his identity and called her, "Daughter, thy faith hath made thee whole. Go in peace and be whole of thy plague." So he gave her an identity, and he gave her peace, and he healed her of her plague publicly in front of all the people that said, "Ain't no hope for you. Get." Has he ever done that for you? Have you ever done that for him? Are you still hanging back in the background saying, "I know he's done something for me, but there's more, there's more, there's more"? Does the situation here, this is how it worked. He acknowledged her as family, and he confirmed with his voice her faith and her healing, and gave her peace and gave her an identity in him. Same as he does for everyone who calls upon his name now. He'll heal you, and he'll give you his name. And he calls you, brethren. You know, the fact that you were going to be joint heirs with Christ, my mind cannot comprehend that. Why would he let us be partakers of the benefit? Well, it certainly isn't because of anything I've ever done or that you've ever done. But you need to understand this. Without him in this way, you're never going to make it through life. You're never going to make it into heaven. You're never going to know what it's like to have an identity in Christ. You're never going to know what it's like to know, even if nobody else in the world ever tries to confirm this for you, to know that you are a child of God. You're not going to make it without him. You need to know that. You need to understand that. You're not going to make it. You're just not going to make it without him. I watch my kids, and they're at that age in their life where they're young adults and they're heading off into the great unknown. And they're all in different stages of it, and I'm proud of them. I'm watching them. But man, I'm holding my breath. Because it's such rough water. It's dangerous. But here's the thing. If they have him, they will make it. They will make it. But if they don't, their best efforts is going to end them up. Maybe years down the road, but they're going to be just where this woman was, right here. No hope left. You're not going to make it without him. Think about these things. Amen.